Hey everyone, we're Kyle and Lauren Wills. We are sharing from Madison, Wisconsin right now, where we live with our 5-year-old daughter. And my background's in engineering. Lauren's got a background in technical writing. We've been a part of this community for about 15 years on my end, maybe a little bit longer on yours. And at this stage, as you make your way through this budgeting module, you're starting to talk about your finances. You're starting to talk about your time budget and, different areas of that. We really want to hit on this talk about setting financial goals after you've sat down with your upline, after you've gone through that budget, and now how to set those goals moving forward and start to make progress and start to track that. So anything you want to share to kick us off?
Yeah, the best way to grow your self-image is owning all aspects of your finances. You're going to feel such a difference the more ownership you take. Some of you listening to this do this very naturally. It's maybe a part of your inner workings, how you run your household, how you run your own budget. Some of you, this is going to be new territory. And to give you some context of where I was when I started my business journey, my mindset was I make about this, I spend about this, there's a little bit of wiggle room here. It was a very light approach to budgeting that wasn't actually helping me make the progress that I wanted. So buckling down and owning my finances really changed the trajectory of where I was going. And I can think of times in my business journey where I felt stressed out about some of the credit card debt I was paying off or student loan debt or whatever it was. And I would run through a game plan on my budget and my finances with my business coach. And I always left feeling better because I knew I was making progress. And that's the name of the game, is how are you making progress? It's not going to get resolved, or you're not going to hit your goals. This isn't an overnight strategy. And the other aspect that I just want on people's radar is that money is just money. It's a very fixable thing. If you're in a position working on your budget where you really have some work to do, you'll fix it. It's very different than getting a diagnosis or something terminal that can't be repaired. So whatever was happening for me with different stressors in my finances as I was putting my business together, that was always my background music. Hey, I'm making progress and this is fixable. So there's a lot of strategies that I'll kick it over to Kyle to just set some other different mindset around.
Awesome. So one of the most important things I can share with all of you at this stage is to ensure that you don't make budgeting an event, but you make it a process. You make it a part of your life, something that you move forward, something that you touch base regularly yourself. If you have a spouse, you maybe touch base with them a little bit more regularly. And then you're going to want to make sure you have touch points with your upline, with your coach, at various times throughout the year, just to get another perspective, that unbiased approach in regards to how you're making that progress, okay? Now, when it comes to your financial goals, this is really important. A couple characteristics of a good financial goal. It's clear and quantifiable. Setting the goal to save more is not a good goal. How much more do you want to save? By what date do you want to save it by? Make sure it's clear, make sure it's quantifiable. Second thing, make sure it's realistic. I'm all up for setting big goals, but you need to ensure that you can see the path of how you're going to accomplish that goal. And then the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to financial goals and the characteristics is ensuring that you can prioritize these things. Here's the reality of most situations. You're not going to be able to save as much as you want to save, pay down as much debt as you want to pay down, make more income, invest more, do all of the things all at the same time. There's going to be different things. Maybe your priority right now is paying off debt because you have some really bad debt at a high interest rate. Maybe your priority is going to be saving. This is going to be individual, and this is why you want to make sure that you have regular communication and a feedback loop with your upline so they can give their perspective. And obviously understand when it's anything about your own finances, the ultimate decision is on your shoulders. right? Your upline is there to give their perspective from their experience and what they've seen work for them. It's always going to rest on your shoulders to make that final decision of what is going to help you most. Now, something when you start to make these strategies to keep in mind, your intensity and the duration it takes are directly correlated. Meaning, this should be pretty obvious, but I wanted to make sure I make this point. The more intense you get about saving, the more intense you get about investing, the quicker that's going to go. So if folks do want to do something to change their budget and maybe pay off more debt, whatever it is, and you're eating out a lot, some folks will take the strategy of, well, I'm going to eat out less. And then some folks will take the strategy of, I'm not going to eat out. And while the latter might feel harder at first, understand you're not going to have to do that for as long to create the same result. Okay, so it's going to be based on what you prefer and what works for you. But I want folks to understand that. Set a system of checks and balances when you do this. How are you tracking it? Are you using a spreadsheet? Are you using a software package that's available out there? There's a lot of great budgeting tools out there. Are you doing this individually, or are you very transparent in a feedback loop with your upline? How often do the two of you connect, or how often do you look at it? Again, the more clarity and specifics you have around each of these areas, the better you're going to actually be able to follow through, which is going to mean the better progress that you make on these financial goals. Now, I wanted to finish this off by talking about some of the top reasons people don't reach their financial goals and what we can do to avoid that. So again, you've heard me say this a couple times already, but a lack of clarity and a plan. So hopefully this is not the case for you at this point. If you're listening to this because you've gone through a budget, you've probably spoken about what is that plan for you going forward? What is that clear goal? But again, if that is not there, ensure you have that. Whether it's about your budget as a whole and your finances as a whole or a specific area. Second thing, make sure you get really clear about what is a necessity and what is a luxury. This is something a lot of people confuse luxuries for necessities because we're emotionally tied into some of these things. And if you struggle with it, this is one of the biggest advantages of having somebody else walk through your budget with you is because they are unbiased. They're not emotionally tied into some of those areas. And they can give you a very logical perspective versus that emotional perspective that you get. Third thing, emotional spending or ease of spending. What do you emotionally spend money on? What do you have a hard time, taking a step back and being logical? Or maybe just your use of credit cards is too easy. You've got it loaded on your phone. You've got it loaded on your Amazon account. You've got it loaded on all these other things. And it's too easy for that click of a button. So maybe you employ the envelope theory and start paying for things in cash. You might just actually need to inconvenience yourself in order to move forward in some of these areas. Last couple things, influence. One of the top reasons people don't hit their financial goals is because of the influence of others. The feel that you need to belong, the feel that you need to keep up with the Joneses, the feel that you see stuff on that other folks in the community are doing or on Instagram or whatever it is. You shouldn't be influenced by anything but what you can become in the future and potentially your upline. But that's really all, in my mind, that's all I personally cared about. And I needed to make sure I didn't play that comparison game. Otherwise, I was going to start spending a lot of money that I didn't have. And then the last thing, not planning for the unexpected. Stuff's going to come up. Your car is not going to work perfectly all the time. So make sure that when you're setting these goals where you're trying to make progress, you're also including a buffer there for the unexpected. So that way, when those things come, you're as prepared as possible. And with that, I think we'll wrap up here. Wish you all the best to continue to move forward in this area. I mean, making financial progress was one of our biggest benefits of being part of this community. And I hope this audio gave you a bunch of help when it comes to that.